Hello, guys, and welcome to Frank Analysis. I thought it would be good for me to come on here and share some of my thoughts about what I think we should uh, do going forward. What is the best thing that we can do in response to all these mass shootings, which is also interconnected with all these other issues that happen in our country. Everything is connected here, from our health insurance crisis that we have, people owing so much money, our economic crisis, all these wars, all these things that occur throughout the world. The ruling families profit off of it, and they have control over our lives. They have control of our politicians who make the rules, or at least control the rules. They're the ones who really make the rules are the ruling family, right? The ruling families. And then our politicians take orders. They present legislation that's written by lobbyists. And we live in a failed country. I also want to first, before anything, I want to say rest in peace to the lives of the children who died and the two adults that died in the massacre. And like I was saying before that, we live in a failed country. We still live in the dark ages. Just because we have all this technology now, it doesn't mean that we're an advanced civilization. We're not. We still have all these wars, all these proxy wars. Like, the people don't get any benefit out of it. And then there's our school system that's designed to make people be obedient workers. It doesn't really give people life purpose. And so when people are in that system, they feel purposeless. From an early age, we're not taught to how to take care of our mental health, how to deal with relationships with people. People have mental health issues because they don't know how to deal with their social lives. They point fingers. People aren't self-aware. So we have a Rockefeller-created school system that's made to mold us into these obedient workers, to serve these corporations so that they can make money for these ruling families. And it's not to make us happy. It's not made for us to find our life purpose or to discover who we really are. And there's even studies being done now to try to find ways for people who are depressed at work, to design certain treatments to make them feel more focused at work, but not really to make them feel more happy. So we have this mental health crisis. We have a low collective consciousness crisis because the ruling families also have low conscious level. They're some of the most low conscious and unaware people on this planet. And our politicians will not save us. Elections will not save us. Elections are privately owned. We don't even know if our votes count. We can see the Democrats shedding their crocodile tears about how there's shootings happening all the time, that we need gun reform. And then the Republicans are going to talk about mental health. But then at the end of the day, nothing really gets solved. Instead, they want to keep these problems alive so that they can continue to point fingers at each other. Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. The Democrats don't want don't want to focus on mental health reform. And then the Democrats are like, the Republicans don't want to focus on gun reform. They don't want to pass legislation that's going to control our guns. Any legislation that's passed is going to benefit the corporations in the long run. So our police, which are there to serve these ruling families, to protect them, not to protect us, they're still going to have guns. So I personally don't see gun reform as, especially with our current government, I don't see that as a solution. I mean, especially if nothing's done about our mental health, about the mental health crisis or our education crisis. I say education crisis because, I mean, our education system really sucks. Like I've been mentioning here, it's what leads to the mental health crisis. So what should we do? I mean, we have these politicians that act like they care about us, but then they vote for droning all these countries and killing the innocent children over there, as well as the other innocent people that get killed over there. People, when they have mental health issues, they can't afford it most of the time, or they have families that aren't supportive of it because they're uneducated about mental health. And then it gets to that level because it's not at an early age taught to us how to handle our social lives. We're not taught how to have mental fortitude. We're not taught how to be self-aware. We're not taught psychology from an early age. We're not taught philosophy or spirituality from an early age. We can't vote our way out of this, like I mentioned, and how I say multiple times on this show, as we expose these politicians and who they really work for. So what we need to do is have stronger communities. We should learn a little bit about what some people like the Black Panthers did when they had parallel structures, when they had homeschooling programs. But on top of that, we should implement and also educate ourselves on self-help, psychology, philosophy, spirituality. All of that can prevent mental health issues. It can improve your mental health situation right now. At the very least, if you feel like there's not a community there for you right now that doesn't want to start any of these homeschooling programs, which is probably going to be a large portion of this country, because a lot of people are so indoctrinated right now. At the very least, get the conversation going. Talk to people about how this would be much better. Show them research about how our education system doesn't teach people how to be happy. Show them the history of who created our education system. I think as more people are suffering now, they're starting to wake up more. And they're starting to understand how we got here. And also, if you can't do this with your community, you can at the very least do it at an individual level. If you have children, you can homeschool them on your own, or get help from other people. But as long as we continue to have this system right now that doesn't take care of its people, we're gonna see a lot more of these shootings occur, unfortunately. We're gonna see a bunch of other breakdowns of people who don't understand themselves, people that don't understand how to let go of their frustrations. And so we really need to get the conversation going. We really gotta inform other people. especially about how electoral politics, voting, that's not going to save us. These politicians don't care about us. They care about their careers. They start talking about the problems only when their elections are coming up. And they don't want the problem solved so that they can continue to point the finger. They're not paid to fix the problems. They're paid to make their bosses richer. But those are what my thoughts are. I would love to know what you guys think. Is a really sensitive topic. And I also wanted to include some things that I just came across. Our police system, how that's a big problem too. We were just talking about, oh, what about gun reform? Look at how the police treats us, especially minorities. So they were supposed to, the way our police system works right now is that they go after the fact, after the crime was already committed. What we really need is an education system, which our current government will not give us. That's why I suggest these parallel societies, these communities that will have a better education system, especially if we implement more self-help, psychology, etc. But our police system, are they actually taking care of us? This is according to the Wall Street Journal. They're saying that the agency said 2 police officers engaged with Ramos as he reached the classroom. This is the shooter, where he barricaded himself, and both were shot and wounded. After the confrontation ended with Ramos' death, school buses began to arrive to transport students from the school. According to Ms. Gomez, she said she saw police use a taser on a local father who approached the bus to collect his children. They didn't do that to the shooter, but they did that to us. That's how it felt, Ms. Gomez said. Thursday's rising anger came after more than 1,000 people from this grieving city gathered Wednesday night for a prayer vigil. There's more. State officials have said that local police were at the school within a few minutes of the gunman entering the building and exchanged gunfire with him. But they were unable to gain access to a classroom where he barricaded himself, firing an officer. Ms. Gomez, a farm supervisor, said that she was one of numerous parents who began encouraging, first politely and then with more urgency, police and other law enforcement to enter the school. After a few minutes, she said federal marshals approached her and put her in handcuffs, telling her she was being arrested for intervening in an active investigation. I mean, the focus was not there on where it needed to be. These policemen are not trained on how to work with people. They get a lot of people with brute force, low education level. And that's why I say that we need to have a better education system, communities coming together with a better education system than what we have now, implementing self-help, psychology, etc., so we can have people like these police officers actually understand how to work with people and how they can themselves be more self-aware. But right now, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, we live in the dark ages. Our collective consciousness is still very low. And I bring up this Daily Beast article here. The school dropout gave warning on Facebook minutes before Uvalde massacre. And it pretty much talks about how the conditions that this person lived in. He often would get into arguments with his family about the Wi-Fi or about phone bills. But still, he had other problems, like I was mentioning, like mental health and everything. That that really needs to be, we need to reform our system to better deal with that. And it's not just people who are poor, it's also a lot like all these rich people that are addicted to all these material interests. You know, we have rich people that also are very have low conscious level. So we need a conscious revolution. So I wanted to put that all out there. Thank you guys very much for listening. Stay informed. You're not alone.